Hey, lifers, welcome back to the Live the Life podcast. As always, I am your host, Eric Aroca. So today, we have a great guest for you guys today. I think that you're really going to enjoy today's episode. And by the way, happy 4th of July. That is awesome. Look, I've got my 4th of July watch on, my 4th of July bracelet. That's a skull. Anyway, feeling very festive. This is by far my favorite holiday throughout the entire year. I look forward to this, not only because my birthday is 2 days after and I always have fireworks for my birthday, but I truly love the 4th of July. As you guys can probably tell, all of my social media stuff this week is all about the 4th of July, about patriotism, about just loving the good old US of A. So, enough of that, right? Let's get down to the good stuff. And I want to introduce you guys to Karent Warren, who also happens to be my favorite
Ooh.
older sister.
Oh, you had to throw that in.
How'd you like that introduction? Was that good?
Yeah,
That was
figures.
good, right? All right. So, Karent, welcome to the Live the Life podcast. We're super excited to have you on as a guest this week.
Well, it's nice to be here. I'm glad that you said I was your older sister, but I may be older, but I'm prettier. So
I wouldn't go there. I think I'm prettier.
it's a debate we've always had.
I don't think it's much of a debate, but that's just me. Okay, so the reason why I asked Karen to come onto the podcast. Oh, you know what? Before we do any of that, Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself, because I could introduce you, but I'm afraid that my introduction of you would be like a little brother introduction. So I don't think you want me to do that. So I'm going to give you the time right now to go ahead and tell us all about you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for letting me do it then. Like you said, my name's Karent Warren, and I have three children. I have two sons and a daughter, and I have seven grandchildren, five boys, two girls. Love it. My favorite time of my life is being a nana. I am a registrar at Mountain Ridge Junior High in Highland, Utah. Been here for 13 years now, but I've worked in the district for almost 30 years now.
Wow,
And
time flies when you're having
time
fun, huh?
flies. I
Wow,
know. I know. I said I was going to give myself 5 years here and then I was going to move on. And here I am 13 years later.
wow.
Um, let's see. I love to do all kinds of crafts, get together with family. I work on a fairy garden that I have at my house. So I like doing that. And then just my regular vegetable garden. I've become one of those people. And that's about it. I'm the oldest of six, only by a year and 3 days. Am I older than Eric? Just so that everyone knows that.
But you are older.
Be grateful because I defended you many times.
That's true. That is very true, and I am grateful. I am grateful. I think we had growing up. I think we had a great childhood. Not that
Yeah.
it wasn't, that it didn't have its challenges and things like that, like any normal family would. But I truly, looking back at our childhood, it's one of those times where, as I reminisce, I really go back and enjoy it and think about all the good times we had as young
Yeah.
children, as well as teenagers, and mostly teenagers, right? Because you and
Mostly
I were
teenagers.
very close as teens, so I'm extremely appreciative of that. I remember going to Provo High School, and I wasn't Eric Aroca. I was Karent's little brother, right? And trust me, I was totally okay with that. Like that was great that people knew who I was, even if it was Karent's little brother. So I'm extremely grateful for that. Okay, so thank you for letting us know about yourself. I can't believe
Yeah.
you've been at the district over there for that long.
Yep.
It's been a long time.
Well, I had a
Well,
son that needed me to be there at all times, so I might as well get paid for it.
there you go. There you go. Did you mention your dogs?
No, I forgot to mention my dogs. So I have Tesla, who's a boxer. I have Diesel, who's kind of a mutt. and he's not really mine, but he's turned out to be mine. But my baby is Tigger, and he's also a boxer.
Awesome. That's what I remember about going to your house ever. There was always a boxer in the house, at least
Yep.
one,
Well,
minimum.
yes, we had up to 14 at one point when they had puppies.
Yikes, no thanks. All right. All right. So the reason why we asked Karen to come on is, especially during this week, during the 4th of July week, is I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about our journey of becoming U.S. citizens. And so in order to do that, I wanna take us back as far back as we can. So let's go back to Chile, where we are from. And do you remember how we found out, or when mom and dad told us that we were coming to the US? Do you remember what that was like?
I don't remember. I just remember always wanting to come here. Our grandparents came a few years before we did, and they would send us presents and they would talk to us on the phone. And I remember just thinking, oh, I'm going to go there someday. And I used to tell people that I'm going to go to the United States of America. And I was very proud of that. But I don't remember mom and dad saying, we're moving now. I
Yeah.
don't really remember that part.
Yeah. So the one memory I have is mom and dad sitting us down and telling us that we were moving to the US. And
Okay.
I just remember feeling, um, I think, really just overwhelmed by the news that we would be moving here. And excited, I think, at the same time, because I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to be rich. You know,
Right?
we're
That's what I
going
thought
to be
too.
millionaires. And, because back then, I mean, when you thought of Americans, I think the perception was always that Americans had money, it
Well, I think
wasn't.
it still is in many parts of the world. It still
Yeah,
is.
yeah, and it's still that way. But it wasn't like, oh my gosh, Americans have freedom or any of that, because of all the turmoil that was going on in our own country, and we won't even get into that. But
No.
it was, we're gonna be rich. Like, Americans have money. That's
Yeah.
how we knew, or at least how I knew Americans as a child, is that they had money. So when our grandparents moved here, I thought surely, right, like, it was going to happen. Like, it was going to be
Right.
awesome. So I
So
do
wait,
remember mom and dad sitting us down and, going through that and just letting us know that we would be moving at some point. But it's like a vague recollection, like a vague memory, of them doing that. Okay. So we make it here, right? We
right.
we pack up and move. So what were your first thoughts, um, about being in America?
Well, I'm gonna back up just a little bit back to when we were on the airplane. And I remember our dad kind of huddled us down because we were the two older ones and said, okay, you guys, we're getting ready to start a new adventure. And we have new customs, new food, new language. Everything's new that we're going to do. But at the end of the day, we're going to remember that we're Chileans. And I remember not quite knowing what to do with that thought, but I think when I thought about coming to the United States, I didn't think about new food, new language, because remember we used to pretend to speak English.
Yeah.
I didn't
It,
think about
it
any of
probably
that,
sounded more like Chinese, to be honest.
probably. But I remember thinking, well, I didn't know we were going to have to do all that, and that overwhelmed me when we were on that plane and dad said that. I don't
Yeah.
remember feeling overwhelmed or anything like that until then.
Yeah.
But
Wow. I don't even remember. I have no memory of that. The one memory I have is, um, not too long after we had arrived. I remember dad pulling us together with the family. It was kind of a family meeting, saying that that when in Rome kind of thing. When in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? In other words, hey,
right,
we're in America now, so we're going to speak English because that's what Americans speak, is English. But in the home, we predominantly spoke Spanish.
right,
Um, but outside the home, I mean, pretty much just spoke English everywhere we went, which I think was um, which I think was like a really good idea. Like, because I know so many foreign people who've been in the country for years and years and years and still can't speak English.
Oh, I
And so
translate for
I'm
those
really
people
happy
all the
that
time.
Dad kind of instilled that in us. I think he
Yeah,
saw the importance of us embracing a new culture, a new language, new customs, like you mentioned, but staying true to who we were, right? I mean, deep
right,
down in our heart of hearts, we are Chilean, but now we have arrived in a new country, and there's new customs, there's new everything, like you said.
right.
So just embracing that part of it, I think was I think a really smart thing to do as a family and
Oh,
overall.
I'm very grateful that he pushed us to do that because it got us where we're at today. And I'm the one who's translating for those that don't throw themselves into the culture or the language or any of that. So I'm glad that he did that.
Yeah. Wow. So how old were you, or what do you remember about us becoming citizens? Was there a conversation about this? I think what I remember was that was kind of always the plan, but do you remember anything specific about any kind of a conversation that we had about us becoming US citizens? And when we had that, what did you think about that?
I don't think there was like you said, I don't think there was a conversation. I think it was just expected. That was the goal. And mom and dad had to work really hard because you got to figure, I think it was about 6 years after we got here when they became citizens. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
6 years later. And they didn't speak English very well. And they didn't understand all that well, especially mom. I think mom had a little bit harder time. But yeah, they had to study for those classes and they had to take the test in English. They had to memorize all of the history of the United States. And so I remember them studying, and I want to say they were taking a class. I
Yeah.
know they were taking English classes, but one of them might have been something to help them prepare for it.
Yeah, I remember that. I
So
remember
I
that as well.
remember going to the courthouse where they did it at, and they put us all in one big room. All the kids um, that were 18 and under 18 years old. So I was 16. I'm the oldest, so I didn't have to worry about that. But about taking the test. But I remember going into this room and thinking, "Oh my gosh, they better pass the test." I remember being a little stressed about that.
I do remember mom being stressed out about it.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's funny to think back now, but I can't like, I can't think of mom like studying about, Congress and,
yeah,
all those things, it just makes me chuckle to
it's
think
kind of funny.
that
Yep.
she studied enough to pass the test. So
Well,
she
exactly.
must
Well,
have,
here, at least here in Utah, kids have to pass that citizenship test before they can graduate from high school,
oh,
and they cut it back to like half the questions or something now. Um, but mom and dad, they had to take the entire test, so
yeah.
I don't think I could pass it, to be quite honest. So I'm glad I was 18, I was 16 and not 18.
Well, I've taken it several times just because there's like new versions that pop up every now and again over the years.
Okay,
I've passed it, no
of
problem.
course you have.
It's pretty basic. It's really like it's so basic. It's like,
It's
man, if
very basic, but if you don't
I
know
get
the language,
this wrong, I should be kicked out of the country.
it's very basic. But for those that come from a different country who know their
Oh
history and
yeah,
they don't know the language all that great, I would imagine it's really hard.
yeah, no, for sure.
So,
I'm just thinking like for high school students who
right,
haven't been enrolled in school at all, you should pass that thing like
right,
flying
right.
colors, you know. All right, awesome. Um, so what were your thoughts about becoming a citizen? Like, what did that mean to you? What were your thoughts about that? Because that airplane ride, Dad did say, "Don't forget we're Chilean." So,
Right.
what did that mean to you to become a citizen?
I think it just meant kind of what we were doing already. Outside the home, you're an American, but you come home and you eat good Chilean food.
Yeah.
um, but I, I think back then, citizenship and all that, being a citizen was a lot different than it is now. It had, I think, different meanings than it does now. For me, I was 16 years old. I had had a hard time blending in with kids because the Hispanic girls didn't want to hang out with me because I wasn't Hispanic enough. I think it's the best way I can say it. Yet the Americans were too American for me too. You know what I mean? Like I was too Hispanic for them. So
Yeah.
I had friends. I wasn't like some loner, but at the same time, it was hard. And so I remember just trying to blend in as much as I could. Nobody knew, like none of my friends knew that we were trying to become citizens. Nobody knew that we became citizens. Like it wasn't something we talked about. Now I feel like it's more of a big deal for people. And maybe it was just my age. I was just trying to blend in, trying to be as American as I could possibly be so that I didn't stand out differently.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way I can describe that part of it.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because that you mentioned about the kind of not belonging, like
Yeah,
where do I belong? Where do I fit in? I just posted kind of a long post on social media yesterday, in fact, that talks about that very thing. I felt like I was caught in between because
yeah,
I was, like you said, I was too Hispanic for like the Caucasians, right? Like the American side
yeah,
of the spectrum. But then on the Hispanic side, and it's not like there were that many Hispanics in school either,
no,
right? There were
no,
very, very few, but they were very tightly knit.
yep,
And I think a lot of that is because they spoke the language with each other. And
yeah,
I don't know about you, but I just didn't. Like I spoke
I
English.
didn't either.
I just spoke English. And so we didn't fit in with that group. Like you said, we weren't Hispanic enough for them.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember playing soccer at Provo High School, and we had some Hispanic kids on the team, but they didn't consider me as as a,
part
as a
of the group.
Hispanic kid. In fact, when they heard me speak Spanish for the first time, they were like, "What? Like what? Like you
Yeah,
know what?"
yeah.
They were totally shocked. And so, yeah, I very much felt like didn't belong. So how do you, to use um, a common phrase, I guess, how did you identify, right? Because we were stuck in the middle. We didn't really belong in anywhere. I remember it's either seventh grade or eighth grade. I remember just saying, I'm not an American yet, but that's how I'm going to identify, is as an American, right? And so when we became citizens, when it was official, it was easy for me to make that transition because I had made it years before the actual day, the actual event.
Well, I remember that probably around the same time, we I decided the same thing. We must have talked about it. That I was just gonna say we were Americans. We were just gonna say we were Americans because we're from South America, and then there was North America, so we're Americans, right? And I remember saying that to someone one day. I said something about I'm an American, and they corrected me very quickly that I
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah,
And I remember feeling really stupid after that. So I never said that anymore. I'm like, thanks, Eric. Thanks.
yeah, yeah,
But no, I I just tried to blend in the best that I could on with everything. I got really involved with sports
yeah,
in high school, and I think that was my way to belong to something and belong with other people because they accepted me because I was part of their group, not
yeah,
because I was Hispanic or I wasn't.
yeah,
And yeah, all the Hispanic girls that were there, would sit there and look at me like they were going to beat me up because I didn't speak Spanish to them, even though I had a really strong accent, even though I didn't speak English all that great. I still was trying to speak English.
Yeah.
And funny thing is, the other day, mom had surgery, and I was over there at the house taking care of her. And this lady, two ladies came over, and they were speaking Spanish to her because they're Hispanic. And mom is sitting there answering in English the entire time.
All right, Mom.
So when they left, I'm like, Mom, is there a reason why you do that? She's like, I don't even know that I did that. I just speak, and I just thought it was funny. But yeah, so see, it goes even mom and dad do it.
I love that. That's great. It's funny that you mentioned the whole America thing because I heard a lot of people back in the day when they would say, "Well, I'm from South America. Well, I'm from Central America, so I'm American too." And in my mind, I thought, "No, you're not. You're not American. That's not what we mean by being an American." We're not talking about being from the continent. We're talking about being from the country because it's in the name of the nation,
right?
The United States of America, right? As opposed to Chile being in South America. And so I chuckle at that because I hear that from time to time, even now, and I'm just like, no, you're not an American. Sorry, unless you have citizenship, you're not an American. So anyway, that's kind of funny. That's really interesting. But way to go, Mom.
I know, right? I was like, and
I remember having a conversation with a couple of friends. I think one was with my girlfriend at the time. Her name will go unmentioned. And then the other one was a good friend of both of ours, Tom Berger. I remember talking to Tom about the fact that we were going to become Americans and I remember telling him I'm changing my name. And do you remember what I was going to change my name to?
No.
There was a basketball player for the Utah Jazz. His name was Adrian Dantley. Okay. I loved Adrian Dantley. I just thought, oh man, he is such a great player. Blah blah blah. I just loved him, and I liked the name Adrian. I was like, I wonder if I could pull off Adrian because I was like, I wonder if I'll let me change my name. Like, I want to be American. And here's the thing: when we moved here, I had this longing desire to be an American, and I almost felt like a fraud before we were actual citizens because I was acting like an American. I was trying to live my life like an American. I felt like an imposter, right?
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome, isn't that what they call it today? Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, so I just felt like, oh man, I'm just fake, but I just had this thing. I wanted to be an American. And so I thought one of the ways to do that is to change my name. So I didn't know at what point I would change my name, but I had this thought in the back of my mind, what if I got to change my name when I become a citizen?
Well, let me tell a story of that now.
Now that's a good lead in, so take it away.
Yeah, let me tell that story. So we're in this big room while mom and dad are taking the test, and this lady's walking around with a clipboard because they're wanting to get these cards, these certificates done on time. So when they pass the test, they can just...
We've already been sworn in. We had already been in the courtroom. We had already done the swearing in piece.
No.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure they were taking the test.
Oh, I thought it was...
Yeah, they were taking the test. So the lady wanted to come around and she spoke to the older kids to make sure like their names were written correctly and all that stuff so that they could start making the certificates. And she said to me, well, to us, she goes, now, if you want to make any changes to your name, this is a good time to do it. And I thought, dang, I really want to change my name. And then I thought, dang, I have a Hispanic mom. I don't think so. But you goes, well, I'll do that. And you changed your name. And then after they pass the test, they all go down. I tell the story all the time. We all go into the courthouse or whatever with the judge, and we get sworn in and everything, and everyone's crying and everybody's just so happy, and it's just a big accomplishment for all of us. And then on the way home, Mom says something to her in the station wagon. Mom says
The
something to
Buick,
you.
the
She's
blue
like,
Buick.
Pedro, whatever she said, like, Pedro, take the trash out. Okay, when we get home. And you said nothing. And she goes, Pedro, when we get home, take the trash out. And you said nothing. And I just kind of remember scooting over a little bit because I'm like, that hand's going to come back any minute. And she turns around and you're like, my name's Eric. All those fuzzy, warm feelings kind of went away really fast in that station wagon.
Yeah, they really did. They really did.
It really did.
But I was gonna go with Adrian. That was my whole thing was like, okay, my name is gonna be Adrian Aroca. But the more I said it, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that doesn't go. So when this happens, and you kept your name the same, you're like you said, you're like got the fear of Hispanic mother on your mind, which you were thinking probably correctly. But the only thing I could think of was Eric. Eric. And Eric is not, so my full name used to be Pedro Enrique Aroca Garro. Garro is our mom's maiden name. So, like in many countries, you always carry your mother's maiden name. Well, it's French, and I couldn't stand it. And so I was just like, I don't need to be a freaking Garro. Like, number one. I remember that's the first thing I told her. I was like, I don't want to be a freaking Garro anymore, so you can just X that out. And she did. She didn't write that on there.
And from all of us.
And I'm like, no, let's change Enrique to Eric. And she said, that doesn't translate. Enrique is Henry. And I was like, okay, but I'm not a Henry. Like,
look, you're not.
I do not look like a Henry, but I can pull off Eric.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I thought I could pull it off. And so I said Eric, right? And I even told her how to spell it, Eric. So the stuff was Pedro Eric Aroca. And so really from that moment on,
Eric.
My dreams come true. Like, I'm now Eric. And I remember going to school. I remember going to school and they were taking the roll. And they're like, Pedro? Because nobody could say it right either. That's what bugged the living hell out of me. People were like, Pedro? And I'm like, I just ignored her. Just like I did Mom in the car, right? I just ignored her. And my friends are like, dude, say you're here. You know, like, he's here. And I'm like, so I had to like walk up to her and I go, you need to change the name on the roll. It is now Eric. Right? And she thought I was like messing with her, you know. So after class, I had to tell her the whole story. But to her credit, after that, she always called me by Eric, even though on the roll, officially, it was Pedro Aroca.
Yeah.
Right? But she, I think, kind of figured out how important it was to me or whatever, that she just called me Eric from then on. And so that made it easy, like an easy transition for people, my friends and everybody. And they were very supportive. Everybody would just call me Eric. And so there you go. It stuck. But man, I wanted to be an American so badly. And I thought, you can't be an American if you don't have an American name, which, you know, if I had to think about it today, like if I had to go through that process today, I wouldn't have changed my name, right? Because I believe that you can be an American if you don't have an American name, right? Like being an American doesn't happen because you have an American sounding name. So I would probably not have done it had I, you know, been the age that we are now. I won't mention how old you are because you are old.
Right.
So I think it would be different, but I think it just kind of goes to show that, you know, that teenage mindset, right? That's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna do it, and to hell with the consequences, and just go for it. Let me just.
And you have some consequences.
Let me tell you, I wasn't afraid of Mom. I wasn't worried about what Mom would say or do. I was worried about Dad. because
Because Dad's name is Pedro Enrique Aroca. He named you after him.
was
Exactly.
named after the man. And I thought, and that's why I was like, I was gonna change Pedro. See, I can't even say it right.
I know.
I was gonna change Pedro and change that name, but then I thought, no, I can't do that to my dad. So that's why I switched Enrique to Eric. Uh,
Yeah.
kind of out of respect for him as well. And so, and Eric worked out because it was still PEA either way, right?
Mm-hmm.
The initials really
I
didn't
don't think he
change.
talked to you for a little while.
What's that?
I don't think he talked to you for a little bit.
Yeah, I was used to that. I was used to that. I was always getting in trouble. Anyway, um, okay, excellent. I love that. That is so great. Okay, so now we become citizens. You kind of, I don't know, maybe really nothing really changes, right? Your day to day pretty much stays the same, right?
Yep.
Um, but how has it affected becoming an American? How has that influenced you in these latter years? As the years have gone by, how has that affected you becoming an American?
Well, I think that I appreciate it a lot more than someone that was born and raised here for a lot of different reasons. You and I went through a lot of things that most people don't, especially here in the United States. We saw things that most kids should never see. Um, and so, as an adult, I started appreciating that part of it so much more. The safety that we have here, the freedom. And so I go and speak to high schools, and I usually talk to history classes, and I tell them about what it was like living under a dictator and then our journey coming here. And I always, especially right now, with everything that's being said on the news, and I am not going to say I'm for or against anybody politically right now, but it bothers me so much when we say that certain people are a dictator, that we have a dictatorship right now,
Yeah,
because I think
don't have any
you
idea.
have no idea. Because if you knew, if
You
we
see
did
it.
have a dictatorship, you'd be dead. They
Yeah,
would have killed you before that ever got aired on TV.
yeah,
You know,
either that or you shit your pants, one of the two.
right? So that really bothers me. I'm very offended by that when I hear that. But I really appreciate my citizenship here, and I always make sure to be a good citizen. I make sure that I vote. I make sure that my children knew about it, and especially now with my grandchildren, I talk to them about it all the time. Um, when I was in high school, and I said this already, I tried to blend in. I wasn't trying to stand out in any way, shape, or form other than with my sports. But as an adult, I have brought that part of my heritage back into my life a little bit. Like I'm proud to have been born in Chile and have that part of my experience, but I'm so proud of being an American from the United States of America. 4th of July is also my favorite holiday, probably because the day before is what's the day before it?
It's the day you turn a year older than me.
Tomorrow.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Thank you. So yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I've been able to live in both places, and I've had those experiences, because I think it's made me out to be the person that I am today. I think that it's important for the youth now, to know that there's another side, that not everyone lives in a free country. They may say it's free. I remember you saying once you were traveling quite a bit, and you said, "Oh, I love coming back to the United States, because no matter how free everyone says they
They're
are
not.
not truly free.
No.
Here, we are truly free. We
Yeah.
can do and say what we want, and the consequences are not like they are in some other countries."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love this country.
Yeah, me too. Well said. Well said. Um, I, like you mentioned, I've had the opportunity to travel abroad for work quite a bit. I've been to countries who are seemingly free, right? Like they have freedom. I've been to England. I've been to South Korea. I mean, South Korea reminds me of being in the United States. It's just clean. I mean, you never see trash anywhere. Um, but very modernized and very cool vibes there. I've been to Greece. I mean, I've been all over the world, and the thing that I love, my favorite thing about going abroad is the trip home, is coming home. I've had the opportunity to just go across the border, just to drive across the border from El Paso into Ciudad Juarez for work in the past. And I would always, instead of taking the car back, across the border, I would leave my car and then walk across. So you have to walk the Bridge of Freedom. You have to walk the bridge, and I think that's really, I think that's an experience that every American should have. Every American
Yeah.
should have the opportunity to walk the Bridge of Freedom, because I mean, for me, it's always been a very, very, very emotional thing
It was
because
a symbolic thing for
yeah,
you.
and I've lived in Mexico. I mean, I served an LDS
Yeah.
mission for our church in Mexico, and I've done tons of business in Mexico, and I love going there. It's a great place, and all those wonderful things. But man, it's not the United States of America, and I wish that every American could have that opportunity. Driving across the border and driving back is not the same thing as walking the bridge. You should have to walk the bridge. I think too many Americans don't appreciate or take for granted, I should say, they take for granted their freedom, their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Because, but I think a lot of that's because they don't have anything to compare it to. You and
Correct,
I do.
correct, and that's why I think they should have to have that
Mm-hmm.
experience of walking the
Right.
bridge. Um, I'm extremely grateful. I think I say this all the time. Mom and dad sacrificed a great deal, and
Yeah.
I won't go political like you said either. But people know which way I lean on the podcast. But I will say this, that I tell my kids all the time too, that I don't so much care. I mean, I do care who they vote for, but to me, the most important thing is that they vote, because
Yeah.
I tell them, if you don't vote, it's a slap in the face to all the sacrifices that your grandparents made in order for us to be here.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're probably not living where you're living. You're probably
That's
living in
right.
Chile somewhere, and who the hell knows what your life would turn out. I I can't even fathom the idea of
Neither
what
can I.
it would be like had we stayed in Chile.
Yeah.
It scares the living hell out of me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be podcasting, I can tell you that. I wouldn't
No.
be an author.
No.
I wouldn't be speaking professionally. I don't know what I would be doing. My life,
Yeah.
I just know my life would be very, very different than it is today. So I'm, like you, extremely grateful for the sacrifices mom and dad made in order for us to be here. I'm grateful that they wanted us to just embrace the culture. I say all the time, I am honored. It's been a great honor of my life to have been born in Chile, but I am proud to be an American.
Yeah. Same here. Same here.
So anyway, thank you so much. That was so much fun, just
Yeah.
chit chatting a little bit
Keep
about
chatting away.
your experience. So
I have, this is okay. Now everyone's kind of how old I am. I have my 40th class reunion coming up later this month
oh wow, you are
from
old.
high school. And I debating, like, I keep thinking I want to go and I don't want to go, talking about trying to blend in and everything. I feel like I've gone past that now. And so there's this part of me that wants to go and just look, I can speak without that really strong accent, and I've made something out of myself, and I don't know. For some reason I almost feel like I have something to prove, which I don't. but
No.
it kind of feels like that. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I feel bad sometimes. Working at junior high, I see these kids here that come from all different parts of the world, and I see them doing the same thing that I did. You know, they just want to blend in. Like, don't bring any attention to where I'm from at all, because I don't want to be different than everybody else, you know? But I always say, I hope that the day comes that they're proud of who they are and where they're at.
Yeah.
Because I went around, I got there, but I went around the long way.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's really great that many of the kids, because I know you build relationships with many of the students that go to your school. And so I'm glad that you can kind of share your perspective with them a little bit too, and to help them out, because I think that would have been super helpful for us growing up.
We had no one
experience to be able to kind of like direct us and kind of show us the way and make it a little bit easier. So I think you should go to your 40th. I think that would be, if nothing else, it would just be fun.
Yeah.
You know, I think you would enjoy it.
Well, you need to come back for yours next year.
Yeah, I don't think
so. Okay, it'd be fun for me to go, but not for you. Okay.
I'm not a people person. Like, I couldn't stand most of the people in high school. I don't really care to see them now. I mean, that just sounds really rude to say.
Sounds like everybody else, what everybody else says.
That's just how it is. So
I'm not kidding.
I went to my 20th. I'm good. I went to my 20th. I'm good.
I've never gone to any of them.
Yeah, Selena and I, because we had the same graduating class, we went to our 20th, and it was fun. It was good, but I would never really care to ever have to do that again. So,
yeah. Well, stay tuned. I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So, having said, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really enjoyed having you and learning a little bit about you, and just having that, and you sharing your experience of becoming an American citizen. So to all of you out there, have a safe 4th of July. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Till next time.
Absolutely. Bye.